Dubro Suspicion Files.
We have this idea that our digital world just floats around us, that the cloud is literally up in the clouds and everything from stock trades to your Netflix stream just gets beamed down from space. But that's a myth. And the reality, well, it's a lot more fragile and honestly, way more fascinating.
So let me ask you, where does the internet really live? If you had to point to it, where would you point? Up? Towards the sky? It's what most of us would do, but it's wrong. The answer isn't up there at all.
It's on the ocean floor. Yeah, really. The internet is a physical thing, a huge, sprawling network of over 600 active cables stretching 1.4 million kilometers across the dark, crushing bottom of the world's oceans.
And just think about how much we depend on it. More than 95% of all international data, everything you do online, travels through this underwater web. Not satellites, these cables.
And what about the money? The stakes are just colossal. An estimated $10 trillion in financial transactions zips through these cables every single day. That's pretty much the entire global economy just resting on the seabed.
So what do these incredibly important lifelines actually look like? Well, for most of their journey, they're no thicker than a regular garden hose. Seriously, a network of garden hoses holding up our entire digital world. It feels shockingly fragile, doesn't it?
And that fragility, that's really the heart of what we're digging into today. Because when these lifelines snap, and they do all the time, we have to ask a really important question. Is it just a clumsy accident, or is it maybe the first shot in a new kind of invisible war? Let's open the case file.
Okay, so before we start looking for secret plots and conspiracies, we have to look at the simplest explanation. And the evidence for that really comes down to one thing: simple, clumsy, constant chaos.
Get this. Globally, there are somewhere between 100 and 200 cable breaks every single year. And the cause? Well, the group that tracks all this, the International Cable Protection Committee, says a staggering 86% are from fishing trawlers and ship anchors just messing up. This huge amount of daily accidental noise is probably the single most important fact here. It provides the perfect cover for anyone looking to hide in plain sight. So, does that answer, "Oh, an anchor did it," feel satisfying to you? If it doesn't, you're not alone. There's a name for this feeling. It's called proportionality bias. It's this glitch in our thinking that makes us assume that huge events, like a country's internet going down, must have equally huge causes. I mean, think about the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. A $14 billion machine, a national tragedy, 7 astronauts lost. The cause wasn't some grand conspiracy or a massive explosion in the engine. It was a single 50-cent rubber O-ring that failed because it got too cold. Our brains just hate that. We want the cause to match the effect. But what if these accidents aren't random at all? What if they're happening in very specific, very strategic places?
All right, let's move on to the case files. We're going to look at 3 geopolitical hotspots where these so-called accidents are starting to form a really disturbing pattern. First up, the Red Sea. February 2024. 3 cables are cut right in the middle of the Houthi conflict. Just weeks before, a Houthi-linked channel actually published maps of those exact cables. It looked like a total smoking gun for sabotage. But the evidence points to a crippled ship, the Ruby Mar, which got hit by a Houthi missile and then just drifted for 2 weeks, dragging its anchor right across the seabed. So this creates this whole new category, right? Accidental sabotage. The Houthis didn't cut the cable directly, but their act of war created the weapon that did.
Now let's look at the Baltic Sea. This is where the pattern becomes really hard to ignore. We see 3 different incidents in just a few months, damaging a gas pipeline and a grand total of 8 data and power cables. And in every single case, the main suspect is a commercial ship, 2 from China, 1 from Russia's Shadow Fleet, that just happened to be dragging its anchor for miles right over critical infrastructure.
And this is what reveals the tactic. It's not about planting a bomb. It's about weaponizing the accident itself. You use a regular commercial ship, maybe you turn off its tracker, and you accidentally drag its anchor. The official excuse? Oh, it was a severe storm. The act looks commercial, but the intent could be military. It perfectly uses that 86% accident rate to give you total plausible deniability.
And finally, the Taiwan Strait, a jaw-dropping 27 cable cuts near the Matsu Islands since 2018, almost all of them linked to Chinese ships. It looks like a classic gray zone tactic, a war by 1,000 cuts. But the strongest counterargument actually comes from Taiwan's own telecom provider, who blamed some of the breaks on natural deterioration and just old cables. So the ambiguity itself becomes the weapon. If the victim can't even be sure if it's an attack or just bad maintenance, the aggressor wins every time.
This whole focus on simple, low-tech anchors brings us right back to that proportionality bias. We expect a high-tech war to be fought with high-tech tools, right? You know, the kind of stuff you'd see in a spy movie.
And look, those high-tech tools absolutely exist. Russia has its Guji fleet, with the spy ship Yantar and these deep-diving mini-subs. China just rolled out its own cable-cutting vessel. And the U.S. has the super-secretive submarine, the USS Jimmy Carter, which was literally built to tap and mess with these cables. The capability for a high-tech undersea war is definitely there, on all sides.
But here's the twist. The evidence from all our case files, it doesn't point to spy subs. It points to anchors. And that suggests a really critical distinction. The high-tech stuff is probably for espionage, tapping in, listening. But when you want to break something and get away with it, the perfect weapon is the clumsy, low-tech, and totally deniable smoking anchor.
So, after going through all the evidence, we're left with two pretty conflicting realities. Let's just lay them both out on the table.
We're basically left with two competing stories. In reality number one, the world is just a chaotic, messy place. That 86% statistic is the whole story, and our brains are just seeing patterns that aren't really there. But in reality number two, these are not random acts. The clusters in the Red Sea, the Baltic, Taiwan, they're too precise, and they fit perfectly into the playbook of modern hybrid warfare.
And that first theory, the world of accidents, it's very clean, it's tidy, it explains nearly every case file we've looked at, it fits the data, it explains the counter-arguments, it explains almost everything. Almost.
Because there is one case that just breaks that pattern completely. Back in April 2021, a cable near the Svalbard archipelago, way up in the high Arctic, was severed. When they pulled it up from the ocean floor, the forensic investigators said without a doubt that it was not broken by an anchor or a fishing net. Their conclusion? It was, quote, clearly cut with a power tool.
And that one fact kind of changes how we have to look at this whole evidence table. The global average points to accidents. The Red Sea and the Baltic can be plausibly explained away by a dragging anchor. Taiwan is murky, it's ambiguous. But Svalbard? Svalbard is different. The oops, it was an accident theory just cannot explain clear tool marks. And that's really where we're left. The vast majority of these cable cuts are without a doubt simple accidents. But some are not, and the ones that look like accidents are happening in patterns that are very hard to just write off as random. We've presented the full case file, from the $10 trillion network all the way to power tool marks on the Arctic seabed. All the evidence is now on the record. And now, the judgment is yours.